times. All right, have a good day, both of you. How are you doing? It's Connie McLaughlin with you until 11:30. Plenty to talk about this week, including the return of two big but very different TV dramas, with Wolf Hall and Bad Sisters getting the thumbs up. Will they? I don't know. We'll find out. Will our panel have any sympathy for the restaurant owner who wants diners to stop lingering and start ordering? And with John Lewis, Boots and more already on our screens, are you embracing an early Christmas? Past 10. How you doing? It's Saturday morning on BBC Radio Scotland with me, Connie McLaughlin, sitting in for Shereen this week. Lucky me. My guests today are former Scotland football captain Gemma Fay. Gemma, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad to be here. It's a bit of a strange time for me. Normally I'm either a wee bit earlier or a wee bit later, or I'm doing some sort of sport. So this is a nice little change. Feels
Welcome
good.
to the happy hour and a half.
Good. No pressure then for you guys to make it happy. Serve with that task as well as food and drink writer Rachel McCormick. Rachel, good to see you.
Morning.
And Martin Raymond of Cloudline PR. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Right, let's get into this because we've got lots to talk about for the next hour and a half. Two big dramas back on our screens. We'll get our panel's verdicts on the sumptuous Wolf Hall in just a second, and the murderous Bad Sisters. It all sounds very ominous. Donald Trump, of course, spends the week this week making some very controversial picks for his top table. And if you're out for a meal, is it okay to linger? One top chef wishes you'd just get on with it, order stuff and order quite a lot of it. And retailers give their Christmas ads an early airing. So I'm asking you this morning, are you ready to step into Christmas? 80295 if you are. I feel as if I'm kind of there. There's much more to come besides. Have a listen to this. This is some of the big moments of the week.
Coming out at East Kilbride, and I was looking at Glasgow, and it was lit up in sunshine. And I came round the corner there. What a sight! What a feeling! Thank you so much, everybody.
Do you like it?
Can I grab me a soda?
I know you don't think he's a good man.
families, they're complex.
Well, we'll just have to wait till he dies of cancer or something.
Why not give nature a helping hand?
I believe that I can contribute to the debate within Holyrood. I believe that I can assist our party and our brilliant First Minister, John Swinney, and it's on that basis that I've decided to put myself forward.
Yet again, the SNP believing it's one standard for everybody else and another standard for them.
This is mine. What's your problem? It doesn't even look good on you. Get out of my room. And you still haven't even found me again. You actually came.
Basically, my wife, Judy, likes tara masala, right? At least once a week. And over the last month or two...
Do you want to explain what tara masala is?
Well, it's a fish roe-based paste.
Always you with the bad news. You have few friends, Cromwell. They don't know how to deal with you.
That's why they poison your mind against me.
What? Soup? What a waste.
Right, and as always, I want to hear from you this morning. So 80295 is the way to get in touch if you want to contribute to the discussion. If you just want to tell me what you're up to this morning, that's always good as well. First, though, can you believe, right, it's 9 years since the BBC's historical drama Wolf Hall first hit our screens, and how the world has changed, by the way, since 2015. Not least the incredible rise of so many similar shows, all with their own versions of the truth, I'm told. But is there still a place in our hearts for the sumptuous costumes and set pieces of Mark Rylance's portrayal of Thomas Cromwell? Some of us in the studio have seen the first series, some of us maybe have read the books, and the whole thing sort of just feeling as if there's something great about watching something so different from what we're used to seeing in normal life. Just some people think that feels good, some people think it feels not so good. Regardless, we've all maybe just jumped into series 2. Some of us I know have watched series 1. But if you've not, and you're just joining this conversation, Wolf Hall, The Mirror and The Light picks up, in the words of the blurb on iPlayer, just as Anne Boleyn's blood is sluiced from the scaffold. Yikes.
I am greatly altered these 10 years. You not so much.
The king never does an unpleasant thing. Lord Cromwell does it for him.
You are a snake, Cromwell.
Oh, no. A dog, madam. And on your scent.
Did it have to be this way? So bloody.
I've lost my way.
Then come with me now.
Always you with the bad news. You have few friends, Cromwell. They don't know how to deal with you.
That's why they poison your mind against me.
Careful, Thomas. You will feel the lash.
When your only course is to destroy your enemy before they wake in the morning, have the axe in your hand.
You can't have a show without dramatic music, Martin, and I think that one does it particularly well. What did you think?
Well, I love this. I don't know what the term is. Are you a wolfie? Are you a wolfian or something? I don't know. I certainly watched the first series 9 years ago when I was a boy, and I haven't read all the books. In fact, I haven't read the last bit of the trilogy, The Mirror and the Light, which this is based on. But I've read the first 2, and they're possibly 3 of the best novels produced in the 21st century. They're just amazing pieces of writing, and I think unlike a lot of novels, it does translate really well onto the screen. And I think part of it is because it is both historical and contemporary at the same time. So the kind of historical stuff is really strong. So one of the things. Mention the costumes. Like it's kind of costume drama. As we slightly dismissively say of these kind of historical shows, but actually they go into huge detail. They got cloth that was as close as they could get to contemporary cloth, so they could make the stuff. And that actually works because in that period in the 16th century, you wear your clothes. There were laws about what kind of clothes people could wear at different levels and different parts of the, wherever you were in the hierarchy, you could wear different clothes. So when you see the king getting dressed with all that kind of gear, he's the only one who's allowed to wear gear of that type. And just the way that people move because of the kind of clothes that they were wearing, they're projecting with their clothes, their power and their authority.
I feel as if they must be shattered.
The whole kind of kind of historical reality to it. But it's also really contemporary because here's a man who has got no family, he's got no connections, and he is in the court of a tyrant, and a tyrant can literally have you killed just on a whim. And I think that kind of tension between the kind of contemporary emotional engagement we can have with it and the fact that it is so accurate and so strong historically and so subtle, a lot of this is people talking in rooms, people just talking to each other in rooms, and it is done so subtly, and the moments of the greatest fear and tension are just done with a word or even a silence. It is really, really good TV.
I'd need to improve my neck muscles and my sort of gait, I think, a little bit if I was going to be a member of the royal family back in those days, because I would just basically be pulled to the floor with the weight of all the clothes. Rachel, for you, I know that you're a fan. I think everyone's a fan, Gemma. You're a fan of this as well. What specifically was it that drew you in, Rachel? You thought, right, I'm getting this.
I think with this series, because Mark Rylance is 9 years older and it's actually quite noticeable, the difference in his age, I think it actually looks better in that he looks like he is the king's dog. He will do the king's dirty work, but he is also his own man. What they've done very well, I think, is also shown his own motivation. So at one point he gets Princess Mary to sign an oath to the king, and it's just, to me, so clever that he walks in and he tells her not to read it so that she can repudiate it later because she's not read this oath, but she signs it. He gets the king to be happy and he looks after Princess Mary's best interest, and it turns out at the end you find out that's because he promised her mother that he would look after Princess Mary's best interest, and her best interest was to sign the oath to this king, that she had to give that up, but he also gives her an out. I just thought it was just such an amazing way of creating a character. Now, one of the problems I think they've got in this series that they didn't have in the last one is there's no Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn just fills a screen. Her story just fills everything. Jane Seymour is incredibly dull. And they don't try and make Jane Seymour really interesting. They just bring in other elements. Princess Mary's much more interesting. They've got Harriet Walter as Margaret Pole, who she has got Cromwell's number. She knows exactly what he's up to. He knows exactly what she's up to. It's that quote when she says, "You're a snake," and he says, "No, I'm not a snake, I'm a dog." And it's just the two of them together, even though it was only like a few seconds, was just magnificent television. I think also that what you're getting is, apart from the costumes and the lighting has been a massive influence in the past 9 years on different historical dramas. They were the first ones to do that sort of level of dark and that level of candlelight. What you really think get is you just get people acting better than anybody else. I mean, Mark Rylance and Harriet Walter are on a screen for less than a minute and you will never forget it. It is worth watching 20 times just to watch them act each other. Just kind of like, it's almost like they've both brought their A game. They are both incredibly good, and so much of it is that Timothy Spall is now the Duke of Norfolk, and he's just amazing at being the Duke of Norfolk. So much of it is so well acted and it's so well thought out, and it is that big story of the man on his own in front of this tyrant. My only thing is, I think Damien Lewis is still too good looking. I think because when you look
is it distracting?
It's not real. No, because the guy, he was like, by this time Henry VIII is quite gross, and Damien Lewis just looks a wee bit portly. He doesn't. He's supposed to be by now kind of got an ulcer in his leg, smell bad, be quite gross, be a bit repulsive, and he looks okay. He just looks like he's just slightly portly and likes a pie. And he needs to look a bit worse.
See, maybe there was something written in his contract. I can't look too bad. Still need to smoulder.
There's more pie eating required, I think.
Do you know what I think's interesting, Gemma? And I don't know necessarily if this is the thing, right? It's quite difficult with programmes like this to hit on one specific thing that makes it, this is the reason why people are really connecting with this. But it's funny when you think back to these types of stories and human characteristics that are becoming very modern day. You can see them repeating themselves even back then. So I'm thinking about this, almost feels a little bit like someone who's a really good policymaker, as we were talking about earlier, or someone who's just a really good PR guy. And you're seeing that sort of from a long, long time ago, but the sort of the way that people and humans interact is just the same.
Yeah, and I think what's not separating this from other historical dramas. This isn't a story about a king, and this isn't a story about Queen, and this isn't a story about the fight for the throne. This is a story about lifting the carpet and seeing the dirt underneath it, and who's trying to sweep that under there and keep that carpet still. This is kind of a little bit West Wing-esque, the movers and the shakers. And it's I said before we came on, it's kind of a little bit like that quote at the end of Shawshank Redemption, where if you go into a field and you'll see a stone that has no earthly business being there, Thomas Cromwell has no earthly business being where he is and doing what he does. And I think there's part of that endears us to him. And I'm with Rachel and Martin in terms of the acting. It is absolutely phenomenal to have that such a stellar cast, and for each of those actors to be able to dominate or not dominate a screen, I think is even more impressive. To have somebody like Damon Lewis or Claire Foy from the last series be able to be there and not take over the screen when they don't need to take over the screen, that's a skill within itself. And I think the subtleness throughout this is absolutely phenomenal. But the presence that the actors have, and the way in which they play their roles to a T, you can imagine it just being like that. And it's fiction to a level, but based on a true story. So, but you can imagine yourself being a fly in the wall, a little bit like Big Brother, thinking, oh. And I think that's the thing that regardless if you like history or if you like period dramas, it is a good drama. It's an excellent drama. It's so well written that it tells a really well-known historical story. Like just about everybody, I think, knows the story of Henry VIII and his 6 wives. This tells the story behind the story, and that's why I just think it's fantastic.
Well, I was going to ask the question, will you guys watch the rest? But I think I already know the answer to that.
Absolutely.
if you've not done already. It's one of those ones where, is it a bit sort of bingey, or are you in a situation where you're like, right, if you've not necessarily, you haven't seen the first series, have you?
But I saw the first series about 9 years ago, and I was like, this cannot be the second series, but it is. So I would suggest that it's binge-worthy, but go back, watch the first series, indulge in that, because it's beautiful. It was BAFTA award-winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The BBC are actually being very clever in that you can't binge.
You can binge watch the second one.
You can only watch it every Sunday. It is worth watching. It's definitely worth watching the first series and then watching.
I always think there's something about the way that certainly I know that BBC have been doing that recently as well, is about sort of just making you wait. And I don't know, do we appreciate that a wee bit more?
I do. I like it a lot, because I think binging, I'm not that I've not ever binged anything, I'm not that saintly, but there is something about just waiting and that appointment to view thing. I like that a lot, and I think it does actually enhance it, because you see that hour separate on its own rather than connected to the other. I think this is only 6 hours anyway, so it's not like it's 12 hours or anything like that.
You have to digest a programme, and I think when you binge watch, you don't appreciate what you've just seen, and you don't get time to contemplate on it, and then the following week you get to revisit and think, I didn't see that the first, like, oh, okay. And I think that it's kind of like when you go out to dinner and they say, do you want a dessert straight after? You're like, no. Right,
well,
I have to decide whether or not I want it yet.
Yeah,
I haven't had that discussion with myself
you need to know if you're lingering long enough to decide whether you want it, which we'll talk a little later in the show about. I'm definitely not saintly in any way, Martin, because I get to the end of something and then I get furious if I can't see the next one. I'm like, why? Because then I feel as if something else happens and I need to go back and watch it again, like you were saying about series 1, because I forget loads. Anyway, right, okay, thank you guys for the moment. It is 10:21.
Alright, my lover just in here, bringing up beats and snizzle. I'm here all day, but then I gotta catch my train to Brizzle. Me and Alan wanna make today a right good bash, so how about we finish early and go on the lash? Yes! Bongo Solo! The Chris Moyle Show! I got a brand new combine harvester.
By the way, Wolf Hall, The Mirror and the Light continues tomorrow night on BBC One. The first episode and the whole series, as we were saying, is now available on the iPlayer. It's still to come here on BBC Radio Scotland. It's Connie with you until 11:30. President-elect Donald Trump picks out his controversial top table. We'll talk about that. And we'll hear about the chef who wishes diners would munch and quaff with a little bit more thought process behind it and just hurry up, or maybe he's ordered a little bit more as well. But first, I'm here with my guests, Gemma Fay, Rachel McCormick and Martin Raymond, and it is that moment of the week where you tell me something special, a big moment that's happened to you this week. Gemma,
yes,
talk to me.
Okay, so I was down in London this week, and part of the work that I do, I had the honour of sitting on a feasibility study for whether or not a female version of the British and Irish Lions was possible, and it was agreed it was, and they've launched that they'll go on tour in 2027. But it's very strange because there isn't actually ever been an official female Lions. So how do you create something and make sure that it's right for the players that get selected into it without actually having anybody to go back and talk to about it that's been a female lion? So they came forward and they created something called an engagement day, the first engagement day, and we brought together current players from all of the home nations plus Ireland and down to London for a day to try and just engage with the players and give them a bit of the background to what it was about and what did they want it to be? What traditions did they want to create? And part of that was I was fortunate enough to sit in a panel, and I sat beside Alessio Russo, who people will know had a very successful Euros last time round. And then at the moment I got asked a question, and it struck me because I was looking out into the audience, and it was a very female-dominated audience, which in rugby is not your traditional stance. And not just that, but these were like strong women. These were like women that had been to World Cup finals, who had launched podcasts, who'd launched their own clothing range. So I'm sitting thinking, and I just took a moment because I hadn't actually done that to that point because I was going here, I was going there. I took a moment, I thought, this is amazing. This is amazing to be in a place with so many powerful, strong, wonderful women who are making difference and making change in an environment where 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. So my moment of the week is when things like that happen, is about pausing and appreciating it, because we're so busy doing things that sometimes we forget. And that moment will stay with me for a long time. Just the honour of being in a place like that with so many, wonderful female athletes, but also wonderful women who are going to do great things, who are doing great things and will continue to do great things.
Do you know, it's funny because people say this in big moments in your life, whether it's you and your children are younger, or you're getting married, or there's something that's happening in your life that's a seminal moment for you, and they say, take it all in, make sure you look around you and you're in that moment. But naturally what tends to happen is that you're too busy doing the next thing, and you forget about it. It's only when you have that time to reflect back, and you'll probably think about this, I don't know, maybe Gemma as well, but about your career, and think it's only when you've had a bit of space in between it that you look back and then you think, wow, do you know what, that was pretty cool, and trying to be better at that. I think we can all try and be better at that.
Yeah, I think I had a coach once tell me, and I've never forgotten this, don't ever come out of something with the thought in your head of, if only I had. And I think that's a really good phrase to look on in life. Don't ever come out of something and think, if only I'd done this. Or if just feel free and present at the moment to do it.
Plus, everybody knows that there's, in their career, there's a golden time. There's in everybody's career, it doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are deemed to be, there's a golden time. And the key thing is to recognise that golden time, that's a very special time. It might or might not happen again, and it's so easy just to let that miss and go past. So it's not just a particular day, there's a kind of little period of time in people's lives, great times, and you can just grab that.
Was your golden time this week in the cinema by any chance?
Yeah, well, we go for these big historic moments to I don't know, people would call this trivia, but I'm not going to call it trivia at all, because I went to see Paddington in Peru. And as I'd explain here, my children are in their late 30s, and I don't have any grandchildren. But off we went, nevertheless, to see Paddington Peru. And I was thought, oh God, it'll be full of kids. It'll be like... Anyway, at the time we went into my multiplex, and there was not one single child in that room. And it was I would say 2/3 full. And what a great time we had. Great film. Now, my kind of claim to fame, I always like to, a bit of name dropping here. So I do the same thing. I don't get away with that. I'll come back with my. The director.
I love how you're pointing over there, Jim.
I'm just going to Gemma.
There was a big finger point.
Yeah, I don't think you can just drop the name.
I see you and I raise you.
Well, no, I can't raise you a superstar. But the director of Paddington Peru is Dougal Wilson, who started his career as a copywriter at the Leith Agency in Edinburgh, and I've vaguely worked with him, not in the agency, but as a client at that particular time. I'm sure he remembers me well. I'm sure he talks about me. She goes, I remember that Martin Raymond I worked with. I got my best ideas from him.
Of course.
And Dougal has done his time. He's done a lot of television and TV commercials. He's done music videos. He's done short films. This is his first feature film. And I was sitting there reflecting on what a responsibility that was, because, Paddington Bear is he's a kind of symbol of something about Britain as a nation, and I think quite a positive symbol of us as a nation. And there's a big responsibility involved in taking that and turning it into a film, particularly when it's your first feature film. So I enjoyed it very much. There's really deep, meaningful things in there about time passing, and I noticed that Paddington Bear himself, that shows you the detail here, it's getting a bit grey round his ruff, I think is the technical term.
Aren't we all, Martin?
And I thought, well, that's interesting. Like Mark, like Mark Rylance is growing a little bit older into the part. I see Paddington Bear growing a little bit older and taking on
see a little bit of him yourself?
Gravitas too. Well, you got to identify with characters like that,
Sure.
I think critically, I would say that probably the Paddington franchise is a bit like the Godfather trilogy. Maybe part 2 is the best one. I think the last one with Hugh Grant, probably I would say just edges it. But good film. Enjoyed it very much. Right.
These are great moments of the week. So you've got a lot to live up to, Rachel, here.
Well, I'm afraid on the name dropping front, I'm going to have to disappoint you unless standing in front of a statue of the Beatles in Liverpool counts as a name drop, but I don't know if inanimate objects count as name dropping. My cousin lives in San Francisco, and he was over in the UK for a few days, and he wasn't going to manage to get any further north than Liverpool, so I went to Liverpool on Wednesday for lunch. Which was actually quite fun. I would highly recommend it if you don't have a lot of time to see, especially family. If they've travelled really far and you're thinking, well, I don't have time to go to see you for 2 days and stay overnight and all this, that, and the next thing. Just get on a train, go and have lunch, get back on the train, come home. It was great. It was really nice to see him. It was actually really nice to be in Liverpool, and it did feel quite, to put it mildly, kind of indulgent and slightly debauched of what are you doing today? I'm going to Liverpool for lunch.
Was the lunch good?
Home. The lunch was amazing. It was in this restaurant called Nord, and it was really, really beautiful. I would highly recommend that restaurant, and I would highly recommend going a long distance to see family for lunch.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is like a new thing actually. A lot of people that I know, not lots, a few, have been going like day trips. So maybe going to Dublin or going to Belfast or going to I read somewhere someone went to Copenhagen for the day and just came back. So similar, sort of people are now going day trips rather than sort of having to spend the money to go overnight and whatever. So if that's you, I don't know, let us know, 80295. Have you gone somewhere very dramatic and far-flung for your lunch? Speaking, by the way, of someone who has travelled a bit of a distance, Paddy McGuinness was in the building over the last 24 hours. Maybe, I don't know if you watched Children in Need last night. The Alive telethon was it raised over a whopping £39 million and counting, by the way. And he arrived last night at our studios here at Pacific Quay, having raised almost £9 million himself, Paddy McGuinness. He was jubilant and exhausted. Let's have a little listen to him arriving.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is here. A Herculean task for Paddy McGuinness. 300 miles from Wrexham to Glasgow. Paddy, what are the feelings right now, my darling? Paddy is stripping off the layers. He's had so many layers on this morning. Oh, yes. Paddy, you did it. You did it. 300 miles on
honestly,
patch.
I can't believe it. Coming out of East Kilbride, and I was looking at Glasgow, and it was lit up in sunshine. And then coming in there, and the streets were lined. I had Sir Tom at the side of me as well. And I came round the corner there. What a sight. What a feeling. Thank you so much, everybody.
Oh, an emotional Paddy McGuinness. I was going to say his final resting place, but maybe resting for a wee while anyway after riding 300 miles on his bike. Gemma, what did you make of it? An awful lot of money he's raised for children in need.
He's raised about a quarter of the total.
That's mad, isn't it?
He's raised about 9 million. 2 million of that, I think, from the Scottish entrepreneur Tom Hunter, who said he would match up to 2 million because his connection to choppers, that he started off selling choppers. And it's fantastic. And I think that what I love about Children in Need is that they have the opportunity. They take big brands. So we had Bluey, who was doing Strictly last night. We had the Gladiators. We had Girls Are Allowed, who re-released their song from 2004 with Sarah, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago from cancer. They found Voltage song material of her singing the song, so they re-released that. And I think what's wonderful is they put these big brands and personalities together, and they get the profile, but the money comes in. It doesn't. You can put that together, but the money has to come in. And people, even though we've had cost of living and we continue to have challenges around economy, people always dig deep. And one of the stories which I thought was great was the focus on Team Jack. And Team Jack is based on a young Scottish teenager, unfortunately lost his life to cancer. But he was so positive about trying to do good before he left. And now Team Jack have the opportunity to go into cancer wards to support families and children, to allow them to play, and afterwards they've created Jack Dens, which are across Scotland, and support families on that journey out the back of cancer. And I just think the focus on a Scottish charity last night and where that money was going to support and help was brilliant, and hopefully we continue to give every single year to causes like this, because these kinds of charities, they do work that lots of times that people don't really understand, or they don't know happens, but the amount of charities that do work behind the scenes to allow us to be able to support families and children who are in need is phenomenal.
If you were watching it last night and maybe you decided to donate, tell us why. What was it about this charity in particular you thought, right, I really want to be part of this, I want to give? You can let us know. 80295 is the best way to get in touch. It's Connie McLaughlin sitting in for Shereen this week. My guests, Gemma Fay, Rachel McCormick and Martin Raymond, still with me. Now, for obvious reasons, we're moving our attention to America, where this week Donald Trump has made several contentious hires in his new administration, notably in health, defence and the Justice Departments. Picks like billionaire supporter Elon Musk, who will play a role in cost cutting, will not need to be ratified in the same way as others who will have to require confirmation by the Senate. Some of the picks have been more controversial than others. Here's the BBC's North America editor, Sarah Smith, to explain.
Donald Trump is rewarding his most loyal acolytes with big jobs. Robert Kennedy Jr. dropped his own bid for the White House to back Trump, and now the president-elect wants to put him in charge of America's public health.
And he's going to help make America healthy again.
He is a provocative choice because he's a vocal vaccine skeptic who repeats debunked theories about links to autism and questions other accepted scientific findings. He does say he won't stop anyone from getting vaccinated.
Well, anybody who wants to take a vaccine, I'm not going to get in their way. If you want a vaccine, or if you want to vaccinate your children, those vaccines will be available.
Please welcome the President of the United States.
As Donald Trump was savouring victory last night, he had a gentle warning for those closest to him.
People like you, Bobby. Don't get too popular, Bobby. You know, you've reached about the level.
Matt Gaetz is the most controversial nominee.
Donald John Trump.
Donald Trump wants to make him Attorney General because he would agree to use the justice system to persecute Trump's opponents. But lawmakers are demanding to see the results of a congressional investigation into allegations of sex trafficking before they agree. He is not popular, even with fellow Republicans.
Mr. Gates breaks things to breaks things, and then once he breaks it even more. And that is somebody who should not be the Attorney General of the United States.
Trump's shock troops are eager to see him pursue his enemies.
You tried to destroy Trump. You tried to imprison Trump. You tried to break Trump. He's not breakable. You couldn't destroy him. And now he has turned on you, and he's put a firebrand in charge of Maine Justice, Department of Justice.
And that was Donald Trump's former aide, Steve Bannon, ending that report from our North America editor, Sarah Smith. Rachel McCormick, no major surprises. That there have been some surprises, but also some controversy around who Donald Trump is considering putting into his top table, as we're calling it. Who are the ones that jump out for you that are causing us the most of a stushy?
Well, I'm kind of surprised that anything is causing a stushy, because to be honest, I'm right at the point where he could appoint Putin as something, and it would just seem to me normal. It kind of, the advantage of having like the return of Wolf Hall is you can just see how mad these things can be. And you listen to him and he wants Bobby Kennedy in because he wants the kind of he still wants the glow of a Kennedy family from somewhere, and that's pretty much what he's got left. I think it's kind of to the point where it's all just so mad. I mean, you have somebody that he basically wants to be the head of the military, whose entire job has just been to sit on Fox News for about the past 8 years. I mean, it's just, everything just gets madder and madder and madder, and the only thing you can do is kind of hold on for the ride. Nothing surprises me. Nothing. I mean, Matt Gaetz, the things that various reporters have openly said about Matt Gaetz and the allegations against him are just jaw-dropping, and that he's going to be the Attorney General. And
allegations that he denies.
He denies his allegations, but they are rumoured, they're running around Washington DC like wildfire among the right, not among the Democrats. It's just, you just got to hold, it's like a bumpy ride, you just got to hold on and look what mad thing's going to happen next. But this is what his presidency was like last time. You know, everybody would wake up every morning and go, what mad thing is Trump going to put on Twitter today? And now we've just got it again. And it's kind of like a rerun. It's like the second one, and it probably won't be like the Paddington second one, and it won't be any better than the first one.
Elon Musk, Gemma, has been, it seems, side by side with Donald Trump for quite a wee while now. What's he potential? What are they getting out of it from each other?
Right. So if you were to say, I want to put somebody in charge of not a government department, but I guess a quangle, to create efficiencies within the federal government, and we're going to put a business person that's one of the richest men in the world, if not the richest man in the world, who's managed to turn businesses, make money, blah, blah, blah. You think that's a good idea. That's actually a really good idea. Then you say, but at the same time, and then you put everything else that Elon Musk's into it. That scares me. It's not the government efficiency advisor piece that scares me. It's him sitting in meetings with the Iranian ambassador. It is the free speech that is X now, which is just, in my personal opinion, it's virile. It's just. It's not free speech. It's hate speech. It's horrible. It's a horrible place, and he embraces that. He scares me because it's him that's in control of this. It's him that's like giving away $1 million to people to vote. I mean, if that's not buying seats, if that's not buying votes, it's just, and I'm with Rachel. I hate roller coasters, right? I don't like them. I find them nauseous. And this next 4 years is, and I hope it's only 4 years. I don't think he's got the ability to change that you can stand for a third term, but you'll try it. You kind of have to just take an anti-sickness pill and just hope that you manage the ride, because all of it is just crazy, in my opinion.
We've got to remember, though, that 72.5 million people voted for Donald Trump. And I suppose in that respect, Martin, you can think and have an opinion that these people that are appointed are nauseous and not necessarily, they don't align with what you would want for your country or how you view things or your own set of values. But they're no major surprise. So part of me thinks that that's what people were voting for. No?
Yeah. Well, I know
that's democracy.
Well, last week, it was only a week ago. It seems like a long time ago. But last week, on a Wednesday morning, I thought, oh my goodness, And then I thought, well, do you know, this is the exercise of democracy. And it's that you don't just sing when you're winning, that you have to go, this is what people have chosen. And they've chosen it by a small margin, but enough of a small margin across everything that has given them this kind of power across Congress and across...
Bigger margin, I think a lot of people would have anticipated.
Yeah, it's still 2-3%. You know, it's still in that kind of... But then a two-horse race, you know, it's, you know, the odds are going to be thin. And I thought, well, that's the way it goes. And I also thought he doesn't sound quite as unhinged as he did the last time round, you know, which is positive. And then I saw these appointments and I thought, oh no, here we are. This is how it works. And this is how it works with them. It has got to be chaos. It has got to be each new appointment he made the previous one look relatively sensible. And I thought, well, that's a technique, isn't it? That is a way of managing the message. That's a way of managing what you're saying to people. They forget that the last one was so awful because the next one now is, oh my God, somebody who doesn't believe in vaccines is in charge of public health. How outrageous is that? So you forget about the other guys who were like even less qualified, if that's possible. And I think that's part of it. And I think what he's doing here is he's putting up people, some of whom he knows are not going to get through the Senate. But he needs that because he needs the outrage. They need the grievance. This whole thing works on hatred and it works on grievance. And if you suddenly find yourselves in possession of all these, as we say, the levers of power, if you've got all this stuff, and it's not even like you can say that the thing was stolen or oh no, it's just nothing. There's nothing there to complain about. You need to have some things. So these rhinos, as they talk about them, the Republicans in name only, they're the ones now who can become the enemy if they thwart his appointments. So it is quite frightening for all of us. I think the thing that strings a lot of these people together is their warmth towards Russia and towards Russian policy. And I think that is really worrying. It's really worrying for all of us in the world. But there's 2 years until the Americans go to the polls again, and it could all change. It could all be big constraints could fall upon him, or he could end up with even more power. So, you know, I'm a great optimist in these things. I think you have to be optimistic about democracy, even when it doesn't seem to be doing what you would hope it would be doing.
I've got a wee suspicion we might be talking about this again soon, and particularly given the fact that President Trump-elect is not even in the White House yet. We'll have to wait to January for that. Right, it is 10:44. Thanks for being with us on BBC Radio Scotland. It's Connie and for Shereen this morning. We're with you until 11:30. We're going to be talking about students being told not to be snobs a wee bit later in the programme. And we'll discuss a murderous return for TV's Bad Sisters. But before that...
Ready to order, sir? Madam?
We'll have 2 soups.
2 soups. One soup and another soup. Right away, sir.
Well, if Julie Walters was taking your order, perhaps you might be excused. But one London chef and owner of a new restaurant, the Yellow Bittern, has berated his customers this week for lingering too long and not ordering enough stuff. Hugh Corcoran says his diners are often just ordering a couple of starters and mains to share between 4 people alongside a jug of tap water. How dare they, Rachel McCormick? What do you think?
Well, one of the things that happened years ago when Twitter first started was all the chefs got on Twitter, and then very quickly all the PRs got all the chefs off Twitter, because chefs are not very... Chefs, there is a reason why they spend 18 hours a day in kitchens not dealing with the general public. People do not like them dealing with the general public unless they have been briefed to within an inch of their lives. So Hugh really needs a PR to tell him not to do this. I suspect one customer has done this once and he's having a tantrum. I do think there is an issue, whether MD likes it or not, that long boozy lunches are over. But everybody's been saying that long boozy lunches have been over since about the mid-90s. I mean, I lived in London from about 2007 and everybody said that they were over. And then all people in the mid-90s said that they were over. And it seems to be there's a mythical time of long boozy lunches that no one ever witnessed. So there is that. Second of all, I think you have to understand that the amount that you spend in a restaurant is important. But at the same time, you're a customer and it's your choice. They have to, if they do not want you, if they do not want you to only order one starter between 4 and then 2 mains, they have to tell you you have to order a minimum. In the same way that, a lot of restaurants now have problems with people double booking and then not turning up, and they are taking credit card details. And I can understand that, the energy crisis has meant a lot of restaurants are really running on tiny margins.
Yeah.
But still, they're still not running a service that you can opt into. And I think there's a fairness thing there of you should turn up, but you should be allowed to order what you want unless they say no.
Well, I think there's an element of common decency and understanding that this is a business, and also, you wouldn't say to one of your friends, I'm coming to your house, and then just not turn up and not tell them. From a PR perspective here, Martin, there's something about when you go to a restaurant, you want to feel welcome. I don't know, is that just me? You want to go there and feel as if you're being welcomed in and that people are glad that you're there and, eating their food. I'm not so sure if I was going in here I would feel that way necessarily unless I was ordering a 3-courser.
Yeah, although I did warn to him because he said, I don't take online bookings, I just take telephone bookings. And I only take cash, I don't take credit cards. And I don't like people sitting with their phones taking photographs of the food. I warned to all of that. So I was kind of with him there. If there's one thing worse than a restaurant making you feel unwelcome, it's going out for a meal with somebody who doesn't going to eat. It's the thing I find quite difficult. I mean, this is a personal thing, obviously. But when you go with someone and they go, oh no, I'm only going to have 1 course and I might just have a starter.
What if you've already eaten though and you're actually just there for the company and
don't
just
go to a restaurant. Don't go to a restaurant.
Maybe if you're going
home.
to someone, you're going with someone else and that's where they've asked to meet. You're like, listen, I've had one
I'm very
course
intolerant.
just to be polite.
No. I pick my friends carefully and they have to be able to eat. No, I think it's the thing about you.
Cancel our dinner date.
Go out to a restaurant. Have something to eat, have a glass of wine. It's an experience. And I also think there's a thing where people go, because I've eaten with people and they go, oh, this is ridiculous. Look at this. I can buy this. I can buy it. Look, I can buy this in a shop for 2 and 6. And look, this glass of wine, I get a bottle for the price of this 1 glass. And I go, yeah, but you're not drinking out this lovely glass that they have provided you with. You're not in this lovely environment here. These nice people are coming along and having a chat with you and serving you the food. It's that kind of sense that it's an experience. It's not just about the food. And I think you have to go in the right spirit. And if you go in a mean spirit, then you better stay at home and watching Wolf Hall on the TV.
There's a cost of living crisis though, Gemma. Surely people have got the right to go out and they want to, spend what they can, and maybe they can only afford 1 main or just 1 starter.
Yeah, but there's an abundance of choice out there, isn't there? And I'm with Martin. If you are going to a nice restaurant, you're going there it sounds weird, you're not going there to eat. Mm-hmm. You're going there to be entertained. You're going there for your senses to be entertained. You're going there to enjoy the ambience. You're going there to enjoy something that you're not going to get every day. It's like when you go to the cinema. There's an expectation you go to the cinema. I could just wait 2 weeks and watch this on my TV. Or I can go to the cinema, I can sit in the nice seat, depending on what cinema you can go to. You can get maybe a glass of wine, a cheese board, or a big bucket of popcorn. And you would never pay that in the supermarket. But you're not in a supermarket. You're in a cinema and you're going for an experience. So I am totally with that. That's what you have to buy in. And if you want to just go and get fed, go somewhere else.
Go and get a sandwich in a supermarket.
Yeah.
I do think people need to remember about the prices, that it's a business and the amount of rates and rent and things they have to pay, that their margins are not high, no matter how expensive you think how much money you think you're paying for the dish is incredible. Their margins are not high.
I've kind of got a feeling you might have something to say about this at home right now. 80295, what do you think about this? Is it okay to linger a bit longer in a restaurant, maybe order a tap water, or maybe you think to yourself, actually, I'm going there, I'm only hungry enough for 1 course, and that's fine for you. Or you're in total agreement with everyone round the table right here who's looking at me. Let me know what you think. 80295.
Memphis Wrestling is hotter than ever. Join us live Sunday, November 17th. Boxing legend Butterbean is coming to Memphis Wrestling. Plus, we celebrate Milestone 200. Saturday, November 23rd, Memphis Wrestling returns to Ghost River Brewing Company on Main Street in Memphis. Tickets are as low as just $10. Plus, watch AEW Full Gear at Dave & Buster's in Memphis. Saturday, November 30th, don't miss Memphis Wrestling Stars of Tomorrow, featuring Wrestle Center coach Jonathan Gresham, one-on-one against Tim Bosby. Sunday, December 8th, AJ Francis returns to Memphis Wrestling for the Grind City Rumble. All tickets are on sale now. Get yours right now at memphiswrestling.tv.
It's Connie McLaughlin with you until 11:30 this morning, and then Breaking the News takes over with Des Clark. Off the Ball starts from midday today, and then it's the big one in the rugby. Scotland take on Portugal in the Autumn Nations Series. We'll keep you right across all the football as well. It's taking place around the country from 2. Billy Sloan is back with us this evening from 10, and then tomorrow on Sunday morning it's Tony Kearney. He's going to be talking about International Men's Day with Alan Bissett, the author of the advice book Lads, and his panel of guests will be discussing lots of things from a faith perspective. You can join Tony here on BBC Radio Scotland tomorrow morning from 8. With me this morning is Gemma Fay, Rachel McCormick and Martin Raymond. It is 2 years, right, since Apple TV's Bad Sisters burst onto our screens. A pretty dark comedy, but hailed at the time as being sympathetic as well as gripping. With a rich vein of Irish humour flowing right through every scene. Creator and star Sharon Horgan is back this week with a second series. Some of us around the table are already fans, so have dived into the latest episodes. Some are just starting from the very beginning of season 1. Let's get a little bit of a flavour of Bad Sisters from the beginning.
Do you like it?
Can I grab my ass over?
I know you don't think he's a good man. Families, they're complex.
I'm warning you. She doesn't respect you because you're weak.
I found myself an old man tattooed on a sign.
She wasn't always like that. He's sucking the life out of her. Well, we'll just have to wait till he dies of cancer or something.
Why not give nature a helping hand?
Who knows if there's foul play here, but if there is, the culprit usually shows up at the funeral.
All right, Columbo.
Claffin and Sons were handling John Paul's life insurance policy. Were you very close?
Yeah, he was our brother-in-law.
My condolences, Mrs. Williams. Oh, egg and onion. It's like you knew I was coming. Did you?
She can't find out what we did.
Bad Sisters, right? The first series. Who's seen it?
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen
Rachel.
it and reviewed it on this programme.
We did
Martin,
it last time.
Yeah.
right? Okay. How does it compare, Martin?
Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first series. It is. Country music fans will know the song Goodbye Earl by the Chicks, that used to be the Dixie Chicks. And basically, this is that song made life, although in the song they're not sisters. But, you know, that's the concept behind it. And Series 1 was a great kind of great story concept. I think concept's the technical term for this. And people have said, the second one, I'm trying to not give away any spoilers.
I know,
here for
I
people who
always
haven't
think
seen
that's
the
quite
first
difficult
one,
to
you
do,
know?
actually.
But the second series is about whether you get caught. I think that's the thing, rather than whether you did something. And I think that's actually quite good. That's even better. And there's moments here of real kind of tension, even in the very first episode. There's real sort of tension in this and fear. And that's the bit I find slightly difficult with it. So I'm going to be a little bit, I'm going to be critical of it, I think, because I think everybody else loves it. So I'm going to go for it here a little bit, because I find the tonal shifts quite difficult in this one, because it is very, very funny. The dialogue crackles, as they say, you know. It's well written, so sharp, and very, very funny. And the characters are slightly larger than life. The sisters are very well drawn, but there was some of the other characters are kind of like pantomime characters almost. But great. I mean, it's good fun. And then suddenly, in the middle of that, there's this tiny moment where they suddenly go, "Wait a minute, you're kind of in mortal fear here." And I found that slightly difficult. And I didn't find it so much in the first one, but this episode of the second series, just the tonally shifted too fast.
Rachel's shaking her head.
I agree with Martin. It's really, really well acted. Fiona Shaw is a new character in it, and she is brilliant. The lines are really good. The plot falls apart completely. This was not an original program, Bad Sisters. When I first watched the first episode of the first series, I thought this is something else. It was actually a Belgian, originally a Belgian story, and they never did a series 2, because the point was the actual story ended in series 1. But it was so popular, I think, that the Irish version that they asked for a second series, and who's going to say no to it? But the plot is completely running away with them. Although the elements are all there, and there's a lot of stuff that's really good. The acting is absolutely amazing. but I can't be bothered with it. I just think they should have left it at season 1 because the ending was perfect.
Right, okay, let's leave it there for that exact reason, right? If you fancy it, all episodes are available of Bad Sisters, available right now on Apple TV. One story that's caught my eye this week, Gemma, and I think it might have caught yours as well, is Edinburgh University. Right, they've had to come out and say they warn students from privileged backgrounds not to be snobs towards their peers from Scottish and working class backgrounds. The uni admitted class-related prejudice was a bit of a problem on campus. BBC Scotland spoke to 2 students who'd experienced this firsthand. Let's hear from Olivia and Ronnie.
People turn their nose up at you as well if you don't go to a private school.
I had that a lot as well, yeah.
I've got a slight English accent because I was born there, so people were like nice, and then they find out that like I'm actually Scottish, and they're like,
their opinion changes.
Yeah.
I had people when in first year I had a job, and people were all very judgmental about it, being like, "Oh, why are you working in first year? You're supposed to be having fun." I was like, "Oh, I've got rent to pay."
Yeah, I have friends that refused to come to Edinburgh because they didn't want to have to put up with the treatment of Scottish students, so they went to like other surrounding unis because it's just way worse here than it is anywhere else.
So the Edinburgh Uni are saying they're doing their best to try and address this. Gemma Faye, you went to Edinburgh Uni. What was your experience of it?
Yeah, I went to Edinburgh Uni. A bit weird because I went to Murray House, which is a bit separated from Edinburgh University. And I only realised this when I think accidentally selected a course in human clinical biology, which transpired not to be anything to do with sport, but an entry-level doctor course. So I went along to TV at Place and sat in this classroom, and I realised really quickly that I, as a Scottish person, was in the minority in that class when everybody started talking about the history of the Hippocratic Oath and in certain accents. And from that moment on, I realised that there was a definite divide. There is a definite divide. I think it's been there since time began at Edinburgh University, and I think it'll always be there. There will always be, I won't say what we call them, but there will always be a population from south of England that have a certain type of accent, and there will always be Scottish people. And now there's an even increasing number of foreign students that are there. That's the mix of Edinburgh University, and it will always be that.
Always be there. Is that? Are you saying that it's?
I mean, it's not called Little London for no reason. That's a common phrase that's used around about when the students are in town within Edinburgh. Should it be like that? Should we be more accepting of differences in people and in humans? Of course we should. We should all strive towards that. But you are always going to get this different makeup of people within Edinburgh University.
Martin?
And it's also the much wider thing is because it's out there in life too, isn't it? It's not just at university. So I think one of the joys of university is people from different places, different backgrounds, different, and that works across everything. And I think you find ways of managing that, you find ways of working through that. And if you're going into any professions, you're going to have to do that anyway. If you look at law and medicine and architecture, my daughter went to Edinburgh University. She studied architecture. It's riven with the class system. So you better get used to it. So it's a good place to learn at university.
Okay, we've got much more to come. We'll talk more, particularly about Christmas adverts. I don't know if that's something maybe that you a bit of a class issue within that as well. I don't know. We'll discuss that in more detail after the news at 11 o'clock. to Saturday Morning on BBC Radio Scotland with me, Connie McLaughlin, in for Shereen today. My guests are former Scotland football captain Gemma Fay, food and drink writer Rachel McCormick, and Martin Raymond of Cloudline PR. By the way, the four of us are here for the next half hour mulling over some of the big talking points this week, including the arrival of the Christmas adverts. Are you getting very festive? Are you guys getting festive? Yeah, are you feeling it?
I know. My partner is like 1st of December, and I'm like, no, that's not 12 days before Christmas.
Oh, stop it!
Humbug.
I'm a little bit like, it's kind of mid-November. I'll get the Christmas tunes out. Come on.
I kind of like. I always remember there's a Victoria Wood line which I always said it seems like the world is now Christmas Cadbury's cream eggs, Christmas Cadbury's cream eggs, and I just think I'm still in the Cadbury's cream eggs phase. Give me another 2 or 3 weeks, and I might think about Christmas.
You're not even allowed to mention the word until after the first. When you start opening your advent calendar, you can start speaking the word Christmas. That's our rule.
I tell you what it is. I'm slightly biased. My birthday's on the 9th of December. And I've got PTSD because I always get joint Christmas and birthday presents.
Oh, mine's the 28th of December. So
no.
I am kindred spirits over it. We know.
Kinder eggs, if you're Rachel. No, listen, can I tell you something also just really briefly? So my son's at the end of January, and when I was pregnant with him, everyone kept saying, oh, you better not have him around Christmas because that'll be his life ruined because his birthday will just become his Christmas present.
It is ruined.
Yes, my wife's January, middle of January. Life ruined, so there you are.
Well, our lives are worth nothing because of our birthday dates are on the wrong day.
Go for September, that's the best month. That's where I am.
80295. Have you got your birthday around at that time as well? Or are you feeling festive like me? Listen, I'm all in when it comes to the sort of first little hint of tinsel. I'm all over it, and I guess some of the bigger organisations are as well because their festive adverts are already out. So we'll talk more about that. Also, should politicians be allowed to be MPs and MSPs at the same time? We'll get your thoughts on that. And Tara Masalata vanishes from our shelves, we're told. Which one treat maybe? I don't know. What's the one that you maybe couldn't do without, or one you're struggling to get your hands on? Our producer Matt says Cadbury's Spira.
Do they even do them anymore?
Is it that Spiral?
No. It was in a white package, and it's kind of a poor cousin of the twirl.
Oh yeah,
it was empty.
Yeah,
and that's. I'm curious as to why that is something that anybody would want, an empty chocolate bar.
Our engineer John says Roundtree Cabana bars and splicers. John, I think you're showing your age there a little bit, John, and everyone else at home's going, I know what that is. Text me yours, 80295. I'd love to know the thing that for you just seems to be vanishing off the shelf and you can't get your hands on. Also, some of them seem to be just rebranding, so you're not really sure if it's the same thing again, like Opal Fruits and Starburst and Snickers
Whisper Mint.
Marathon. Oh,
they don't do them anymore.
Do they not?
No.
That's a good thing.
No,
that's a good thing they don't do Whisper Mints anymore.
Right, 80295. Let me know. Just get involved in this conversation. That's what we want from you this morning. You can do that, 80295. Or you can send me a WhatsApp. It's very 2024 on here. 0885 92 95 00. Right. To Disney Plus, perhaps a wee bit of an unusual home for a particularly hard-hitting historical drama that begins this week. Based on the book by Patrick Radden Keefe, Say Nothing. It's set in the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland and opens with the shocking disappearance of Jean McConville, a single mother of 10 who's abducted from her home back in 1972 and never seen alive again. Telling the story of various IRA members, Say Nothing claims it will explore the extremes some people will go to in the name of their beliefs, the way of deeply divided societies and with the way that can suddenly tip over into armed conflict, and the emotional and psychological cost of a code of silence.
This is all anonymous, yeah?
You can say anything.
My mother and father were both proud members of the Irish Republican Army.
Have I told you girls how to make explosives?
It was quite a happy childhood. We were Catholic. It was a segregated society. Everything went to the Protestants. We thought joining the IRA was the noblest thing a person could do.
When are we late for school?
You're not going to school.
I had that mean the whole time. Soldiers didn't even think to look. You might be missing your chance to win this war.
We wanted to be doing what the boys were doing.
What were the boys doing?
Fundraising.
We are liberating funds for the Irish Republican Army. Mother Superior.
The Brits had a problem. They didn't know who was IRA.
The one thing they could never get us to do was talk.
My whole family has suffered. I would die for a united Ireland.
You were taught that the men fighting beside you were your brothers. That you were fighting in the name of the people. And I think people should know there's a price to be paid. Our silence.
Say Nothing on Disney Plus. Gemma, tell us about this and I guess how it represents and tells the story of the Troubles in Northern Ireland.
So it's an adaptation of Patrick Radden Keefe's book, which was in I think 2018 a bestseller, and it starts with Maxine Peake, who's wonderful in it, playing Dolores Price, sitting down talking about her life in the Irish Republican Army, but it starts with the abduction of Jean McConville, who was it's a very well-known moment in time. She was a widow of 10 children and she was abducted and never seen alive again. I think it was in 1972 because she was believed to be an informant. And this first episode starts to explore how Dolores Price, along with her sister, became members of the IRA from being peaceful protesters and journey to being a member of the IRA. And I think if I was to take the subject matter aside and say in terms of a drama, I think it's brilliant. I think the drama is brilliant. I think the acting is wonderful. I'm a huge Maxine Peake fan, so I'm going to say that anyway, but I just generally think most of the things that she touches, her performances are outstanding. Where I struggle a little bit is with the subject matter being what it is. And I know we'll talk about true crime and everything. It doesn't sit necessarily right with me that is how we are telling a story, even though it's been adapted from a book, and I get all that, of something that had and continues to have such a significant impact on people. Where do we draw the line with that sort of ethical standpoint, Rachel? Because, we were speaking earlier on about what happened back in the 16th century with Henry VIII. Does time need to have passed, a longer amount of time need to have passed for it not to be as raw? We've seen countless movies about wars, First World War, Second World War. The drama of real life is sometimes the thing that grips us, and it's important to tell I guess I'd have a representation of the things that happened to some people would say to ensure they don't happen again. But where do we draw the line between fact and turning this into entertainment?
Well, I think the thing is that streamers don't draw the line at all and haven't. And if you look at the popularity of true crime, they do a true crime podcast, then they do a true crime documentary, and then they turn that documentary into drama, and it can be ongoing investigations just about, or there's people in jail for people still alive in jail, families still affected. So I don't think this is anything new for streamers. If you look at, there's ongoing court cases with Netflix series right now for the way that real characters have been represented in various series. So I think that's the problem, is streamers don't draw the line. I don't think you'd see a thing like this portrayed. I don't think you'd see it on the BBC. I do think one of the problems that British people have is it's very much a programme for an Irish and an American audience, and I think the British see Northern Ireland, either they just kind of ignore it or don't really know what to do with it, and have been doing that ever since the Republic of Ireland got its independence. And so I think it's very hard for British people to watch something that they don't control the narrative of what's going on in Northern Ireland. And one of the things I think also happens is that it kind of has disappeared from our psyche. Like, you don't see a lot of historical dramas here set in the 70s and there being a plot of it being a possible IRA operation. You see so little of that in the UK that it's really noticeable by its absence. So to see something like that is I think is very uncomfortable for us. I do think as a drama it's very good. I'm not sure. It's a line that I am so out with the zeitgeist, and I don't think we should be doing these kind of things. I don't think we should be doing these things past the Second World War in real stories, unless with people who are still alive and who are still be affected by this. but I am not in the zeitgeist of that at all, because everything is being made anyway with me disagreeing. I do think it's a really, really good drama. I think it's really well done. I would like to see how much the decay of her, at the moment her joining the IRA is seen as a really brave thing to do, and she wants to be a soldier and she wants to fight against injustice. How she became radicalised has been really well done. Okay. I would like to see how well they portray the decay of all of that and how it descends into mindless violence.
I think also we've seen things like that, but they're more doc related, aren't they? They turn more into sort of documentary style. We've seen that recently, actually, with I think the Brighton bomber had done something really similar to that, and it was sort of seen through the eyes of him, and that was a different sort of way to view some of the things that happened in the past. Martin, is it... when we go back to this idea of the binging, where do you sit within this as an idea of something that we're consuming and we're using it for entertainment purposes rather than, I guess, from a sort of factual perspective?
Yeah, can I share the uncomfortableness with some of this? I'm not saying that we shouldn't be looking at this, and you know, Rachel's absolutely right. In Britain, we're very good at forgetting that this was a war, a horrible war, and it's very good at portraying that. Which was fought on British soil and fought in a complex thing that Britain was just at the centre of. And we've forgotten all that. So coming back to it and exploring it, a brilliant series of the BBC last year where they interviewed people who were still alive, who'd been in prison and who had been part of both the Unionist and the Republican terrorist organisations, and they talked about their time and about what they'd done and about how they now felt about it. Brilliant documentary. There's been some great documentaries done by Glenn Patterson on the radio where he's explored the Brighton bombing and he's explored other aspects of that period. Great. But I think the whole thing is still unresolved. There are 6 of Jean McConville's children still alive. And I think when you're still in that piece of live history, you cannot turn it into entertainment. I just warn people who are watching this, the first 5 minutes of this I found almost unwatchable as they abducted the character of Jean McConville. It took to 2003 before her body was even found. It was an absolutely horrible moment in a catalogue of horrible moments, and I found it uncomfortable, difficult to watch, but uncomfortable because there are still people alive who were there that day. So I just think there's things you can do in documentary. There's a kind of balance in that, and then in entertainment and drama, there's no balance. It's not about balance. It's not about presenting the facts. It's about manipulating people's emotions. There's a great place for that, of course there is, but I don't think this is the place for that.
Okay, Say Nothing is available on Disney+. Scotty McLaughlin with you until 11:30. We've been asking for the things that you still wish you could get a hold of. Gerard in Aberdeen says, it was an interesting one. Why can you no longer buy biscotti with your latte? I don't think maybe you can. Maybe the biscotti biscuits.
They've fallen out of fashion. It's all the wee... What's the wee ones?
Biscotti?
Yeah, biscotti is a little one.
No, there's biscotti and then there's the Biscoff ones.
But they're Belgian, are they not? The Biscoff ones?
The caramelised.
The one in the little cellophane.
Yeah,
that's
can never
what I thought.
open.
No, biscotti are like the dried out.
No, but they're very long. But the thing that's come into fashion now is cannoli. The problem is fashion.
Cannoli everywhere.
Cannoli with your coffee.
So yes, but they're tiny wee ones and they're everywhere. It's just a fashion. Basically, everything is now pastéis de nata from Portugal.
Yeah, obviously.
And it's fashion. That's why you can't get biscotti anymore. But you can make biscotti, so maybe just make it at home.
There you
Honestly.
go.
I don't think pastéis de nata can ever go out of fashion. Can we just put that out there?
No, honestly, I'm totally in agreement with that. On lingering restaurants, Bill in Kirkcaldy says, I've got sympathy for those who perhaps maybe just want a starter and a dessert. Over quite a number of years now, both starters and mains have become much larger and larger. We were talking about that earlier too. John and Ellen says, apart from a good food, wine and hopefully company, what you're paying for is atmosphere, which is what Gemma was saying. And then Jane in East Kilbride, thanks for listening, Jane, says, in my experience, when booking online, there's a note to say the restaurant require the table back usually about 90 minutes after the time of reservation, and that's not enough lingering for us. I think that was a thing that came in round about sort of COVID time, where you had those slots, wasn't it? A 2 hour slot for your table. Sometimes you feel a wee bit, I don't know, rushed or whatever. But anyway, keep your thoughts coming in. 80295 is the best way to get in touch. We did sort of discuss this a wee bit earlier, just in brief, but it is November, right? So of course it is time to unleash the Christmas advert, and none so hotly anticipated as the traditional John Lewis effort. Let's have a listen.
This is mine. What's your problem? It doesn't even look good on you. Get out of my room. And you still haven't even found me a gift. You actually came. Not this face. Oh, Sal, get out! What are you doing up there? Hurry up!
What took you so long? You.
Right, that's a John Lewis advert released on Thursday. It's sort of whimsical journey through a woman's memories as she tries to find the perfect gift for her sister. What I thought was really interesting and how that translates to radio, and maybe this is something actually that they've really tried to do and been quite specific about it, is that there's not a lot of dialogue in it, Martin. It's all about the sort of Christmassy jingles in the background, the music, the nostalgia of the music. I would imagine the Verve at that point, again targeting a specific group of people, kind of around about my age, just putting that out there, who are maybe looking for, I don't know, gifts for family members, kids and all the rest of it. It's very, very, very specifically targeted, that advert, it feels like.
As it should be. But I think, if I might say so, that's a very superficial reading of a very complex.
Well, that's why I'm here.
That's a very complex piece of. No, I think advertising. We look at it.
It's like a Bergman
We look at these
film.
films. It is better than a lot of feature films that I've seen. You know, not Paddington in Peru, by the way, but other feature films that I might have seen. And I just think the amount of energy and time and effort and precision that goes into creating these, because it is, I mock here, but it is doing all these things.
Thanks for that.
It's very much selling things. It's very much precisely targeted. It's like the core of their target group, and the amount of focus groups and research that went into getting that targeting right. But it's also about a universal human truth about how you connect with your siblings, and about how time passes, and about how even though time is passing, you can go through bumpy times, you can retain, I would say, much more about sisterhood than, not that I want to talk about this obviously, than Bad Sisters is, for example. Because in that, and it's done in 60 seconds, or maybe even less, but 60 seconds, I think. They're astonishing. And we take them for granted. And we go, it's flogging stuff. But just the artistry that goes into a piece of work like that, and the way that so many strands are condensed into a tiny bit of space and time.
Spoken like a true PR guy.
Yeah,
Rachel.
I know.
Turkey's voting for Christmas. What did you think, I guess, more generally as well of I guess if you're a consumer, and we're seeing, we talk about this every year at this point, don't we? And how they're received, Christmas adverts. Are you one to say, I'm quite excited to see what they are, or are you just like a little bit like you feel as if it's too contrived?
Well, I think that it is the amount of work that's been put into them and the amount of money's been thrown at them is very impressive. I mean, if you look at and who they get to do them, who they think is going to serve their demographic. If you look, Dawn French, everybody loves Dawn, National Treasure, and Marks and Spencer's kind of aims itself to be that sort of market. And then you have stuff like the Boots one, I think, is really, really clever.
Yeah, I like the Boots one.
The Boots one is incredibly clever for the people that will go and buy in Boots.
Lady Danbury doing her thing.
Very clever. They know exactly who they're hitting. It's mostly women that like Bridgerton are the mostly going to be the people buying in Boots. and for Christmas they're going to be the ones spending all the money. They have aimed it directly at them. They have these amazing focus groups now where nothing happens without them knowing exactly which demographic they're targeting. My favourite Christmas advert still, though, is Linda Bellingham in the OXO ad from years ago, when she's made this massive amount of food. Christmas Day's been a disaster, and it's her daughter's diary saying how Daddy's done everything and how Santa was fantastic and everything went fabulously well. And then Mummy made the gravy when Mummy did absolutely everything. And that's still, nothing can ever beat any Christmas advert for me apart from Linda Bellingham doing the OXO one.
I tell you what, some people might say that translates very much to modern day. 80295, if there's one in particular that has got sort of nostalgic threads for you, you think, that was the one that I really like, or if maybe you're just thinking, actually, they're a lot of nonsense. 80295, let me know.
Breakfast
with Jamie Theakston
and Amanda Holden.
This is Heart.
Britain's Got Talent finals this weekend.
Yes, it is.
And we thought we would celebrate this by holding our very own set of unofficial Britain's Got Talent
They were
auditions.
very unofficial. I don't think the producers have got anything to worry about.
Yesterday, after the show, I made a big sign saying unofficial Britain's
cardboard.
Got... Out of cardboard.
You did, with your own fair hands.
We put Amanda in a shed. Imagine Britain's Got Talent after some savage budget cuts. That's essentially what it looked like. You know, you're renegotiating your contract.
Yes.
This is what the show might look like next year. Basically, we put Amanda in a shed with her golden buzzer, and then I had to go and try and encourage people to come and audition.
Yes, you had to convince them I was really in there as well.
Yeah, that took
a lot of people
bit of
didn't think
persuasion.
I'd be there.
Let's have a listen to find out just how it went. Here we go. Real Britain's Got Talent auditions. Roll up, folks, right here with the actual Amanda Holden in this shed behind me. How about you, young lady? Would you like to audition for Britain's Got... What, really?
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Step right through, ladies, for your Britain's Got Talent audition. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Oh! Hello, girls.
Hello. What are your names?
I'm Karen. Louise.
Okay, so what is your talent? What are you coming to do for me today?
Well, he's just grabbed us.
Yeah.
At short notice.
Yeah.
Animal noises.
Right, it's 11:26 on BBC Radio Scotland. First Minister John Swinney said that the SNP are yet to make a decision on whether its politicians can hold seats at both Scottish and UK parliaments. It's after the party's Westminster leader Stephen Finn announced his ambition to stand in the 2026 Holyrood election.
I want to be on the front line as we are dealing with the big issues that impact the people of Scotland. So I believe that I can contribute to the debate within Holyrood. I believe that I can assist our party and our brilliant First Minister John Swinney, and it's on that basis that I've decided to put myself forward.
At least two other sitting SNP MPs are known to have put their names forward as well. Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar has had this to say.
Yet again, the SNP believing it's one standard for everybody else and another standard for them. They tried to outlaw double jobbing in the last parliamentary term, both at Westminster and at Holyrood, but it seems it's okay when an SNP politician wants to do it.
Have MPs or MSPs got enough time, Gemma, to be both?
I don't know how they would have enough time to do both, properly, and in the way in which you should be doing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they do like to pick and choose when they think it's all right and not all right. And they like to point fingers, so people in glass houses shouldn't really throw stones. And thirdly, it would be concerning if I was an SNP party member, which I'm not, to think that we didn't have enough talent in Scotland, that we needed to call in reinforcements from other places. Those are the three things that I would take out of it.
Some might say, though, Rachel, that most other, or not all, but most other MSPs or MPs have other jobs as well as their constituency matters. What's wrong with the other one being another job as a politician?
I basically think you cannot be in the Parliament in London in a crucial vote and in the Parliament in Edinburgh in a crucial vote at the same time. I mean, unless you've decided that you're going to learn how to bilocate like Sai Baba, it's just not possible. I appreciate that all the action is now happening up in Holyrood, and I appreciate that if you're a politician with ambitions, and we like people with ambitions get things done, but I think you can't make up the rules as and when it suits you. You know, Joanna Cherry wasn't allowed to do to run for Holyrood. They decided that wasn't allowed, and now suddenly it is. And then we were slagging off Ross Thompson for trying to do both jobs. I don't think it's a realistic proposition to be an MP and MSP. I think you have to choose. It's not fair.
Also, it's so blatantly about career ambition. It's not anything other than that. And Aberdeen South has got a very good MSP who's served them well. And I think, well, do you just get elbowed out the way? Do you just get pushed out the way of that? It also seems to me to cut across a kind of core principle of devolution, that these two things are separate. They're doing different things. You know, the Parliament in Holyrood is doing one thing, the Parliament in London is doing another thing. And if you are straddling both these, then it seems to me to cut across quite a key principle in the whole structure. Part
of this show, right, is that I'm told, because obviously this is my first one sitting in for Shereen, but right across the station, this is partly what we do. We have the big news stories of the day. Then we have the even bigger news stories of the day, like this one, right, to finish off. Richard Madeley, he's been talking a little bit about this.
Basically, my wife, Judy, likes tara masalata, right? At least once a week. And over the last month or two...
Do you want to explain what tara masalata is?
Well, it's a fish roe-based paste, basically, that you put on mostly pita bread, stuff like that. Usually we have it with hummus, something like that. Anyway, she likes it, and for the last 6 weeks or so, I've not been able to get it. So when I come home and say I couldn't get any tara masalata today, love, she says, you forgot again, didn't you? You just forgot. No.
A shortage of tara masalata. I didn't even know what tara masalata was, Rachel, until I googled it.
Well, I think it's a dip. There are lots of dips that you can go and buy in the supermarket. This is a dip from Smokes Cod's Roe, so it's actually really hard to make yourself because you have to go and find Smokes Cod Roe that I have never been able to find, so I've never made tara masalata. The actual bigger thing is really, again, food margins. The people that make these dips for most supermarkets are staff are on strike, so there's a shortage, and the staff are on strike because of a pay issue. So it's not, it's kind of slightly laughable, but it's not actually. It's just generally, again, about food margins and about people striking to try and get a better wage.
Have you tasted it, Martin?
I was like, I had no idea what it was. I'm maybe being invited to the wrong dinner parties. Maybe not being invited to any dinner parties, of course. That's
Gemma?
I have an issue with anything that has paste in it. Cod roe paste, fish paste, beef paste. Anything that has paste suggests it needs to be cooked to me.
But what about a wee dip? No?
Is it a bit very unhygienic?
What if it's only you that's dipping? No double dipping.
No double. No, it's a no from me, Connie. It's no.
Okay. Oh, it's great. Really good tara masalata is absolutely amazing. But you don't get it at a supermarket. You generally should get it in a restaurant and pay money for it. Right. But it is, if you go, there are some fish restaurants in Glasgow that serve the most amazing tara masalata.
Well, as cod roe.
As a veggie, I'm not going to do that, but I can appreciate things that other people like. So, just like this show. Fabulous. Enjoyed myself sitting in. Thanks so much to my guests this morning, Rachel, Gemma, and to Martin, and to you at home for listening. See you again next time. Bye-bye.